we're gonna do another macrame bag. And because you like my reversible bag video, I decided to create another one with fringes. But this time, we're gonna play around with shape and structure. I would like to make a bag which is a statement piece. I have this boat inspired bag. And to make this, we are only gonna use one knot, which is a square knot. So for any one of you who's not yet familiar on how to make square knots, please take time to watch 3 basic knots you need to learn, as I have a detailed guide on how to make square knots. Anyway, for this project, I'm also gonna use 5mm cotton cord. So for anyone in the Philippines, you could purchase cords from me by just messaging me on my Facebook and Instagram account. So enough of this talk, and let's start making this. First, cut 4 cords with 11 feet length each. Find the middle, and from the top, measure it up until 9 inches. And from there, we're gonna pull this side, okay, for about 9 inches as well. And then I'm just gonna simply tie this one so we could start making square knots. And then from this side, okay, we're gonna start making square knots. I'm gonna do 20 full square knots. Just make sure that it's not too tight, because later on we're gonna insert cords in between this loop. Now I'm done making 20 full square knots. That is 13 inches long. From the bottom, I'm gonna count 3 full square knots. So 1, 2, 3. And you see this hole over here? I'm gonna insert 2 cords on each hole. Cut 2 cords with 8 feet length each. We're gonna insert 2 cords on each side, so we have 4 cords in total. Then we'll also do the same thing onto this side. Then let me just put it on the sides. And then same thing here. Okay, now for these 2 cords that we just attached, we have to make another square knots. Now this time we're gonna do 4 full square knots. Again, make sure it's not too tight, so it's easier for you to attach cords later. And then we're gonna connect the 2 by getting these 2 cords from each side and make another square knot. Now for this side, we're just gonna continue making square knots. I'm gonna add 7 more square knots on this side. So we already have 3, and then I'm gonna add 7. So in total, we'll have 10 full square knots. So we did the same thing onto the other side. With the existing 3 square knots, I added 7. So in total, we have 10 full square knots on each side. So from this side up until to the bottom, we have 6.5 inches. So same thing here. Next, cut 14 cords with 7 feet length each. We're gonna insert 1 cord on each hole. This is the reason why you should not make your square knots too tight, so it's easier for you to insert cords. So I'm attaching these cords by making a reverse lark's head knot, or what we call a cow hitch knot. So basically, we'll attach 14 cords on each side, so we'll have 28 cords in total. Now down to our last cord. So we were able to attach 10 cords already. And this time, we're gonna do 4 cords on this middle side. So we were able to attach 28 cords, 14 on each side. Now I'm gonna transfer on my table since it's easier to work on this. Okay, the first thing that we have to do is to separate these 4 cords from the handle. So I'll also do the same thing onto the other side. And we'll start our first row of square knots. So for the first row, we were able to create 16 square knots. Now, for the second row, we're gonna work in between. So we're gonna start here, and then I'm just gonna put this aside. So that's the process that we're gonna do on the succeeding rows. We're gonna skip 2 cords and start in between. Now we're gonna start with our third row. So I'm gonna skip 2 cords and then start in between. Now moving forward with our fourth row, we have to make 10 rows of square knots. By the way, I also
put tape on the top to keep this bag from moving. If you have a cork board, that is also fine. You just have to pin this bag and it will be easier for you to work on this bag. So fast forward to our 8th row. I'm just gonna continue making square knots. So as you can see, we have diagonal line on both sides. And then down to our last row or our 10th row. So we're gonna start again in between. So what we're gonna do is to repeat the same process onto the other side of the bag. Now we're done on the first part. What we're gonna do is to repeat the same process to create the other side of the bag. And once you're done, what we have to do is to connect these two together. And we'll start by connecting the side. So what I'm gonna do is I'll get these two cords from the back part and these two cords from the front. And using these 4 cords, I will do another square knot. Then let's put these outer cords aside. Okay. But we'll have to keep these 2 middle cords and we'll proceed with the next cords on the sides. So we'll use this as our outer cord and we'll create another square knot. So basically this is the process that we're gonna repeat all the way to the bottom. So we'll keep these 2 middle cords and then set aside the outer cord and we'll proceed with the next cords. Then create another square knot again. Then pull it tight because we don't want any spaces or gap on our bag. Let's just continue the process until we reach the last square knot. Remember the diagonal line that we have a while ago. So the last square knot will be coming from the 10th row or the last row that we have created a while ago. Now down to our last square knot. So we'll still use this one cord here and then one cord from the middle cord of the square knot, and I'll make the last knot. So we're done connecting this on this part. So we should be able to make 22 square knots. So 22 full square knots, and then we're just gonna repeat the same process onto the other side. Okay, now time to work on the other side. So I'm just gonna make sure that it is aligned on the front and back part, and I'll start making square knots on this diagonal line. So remember the process, keep the two middle cords and we'll use the cords from the sides. Once we're done creating a square knot, we'll set aside these outer cords and move forward with the next two cords. Before we proceed on closing the bottom part, let's just make sure that we have 22 square knots on both sides. The next thing that you have to do is to gather your cords. So let me just simply tie these cords that I'm gonna use for the bottom part, because we have to flip this bag inside out and we don't want to mix all our cords together. So I already separated the cords from the square knots that I created on each side. So I'm flipping this inside out because, as I've mentioned in the beginning, we like the fringes on the side, so we'll keep it and close the bottom part from the inside. So let me just untangle this, and we're gonna transfer on my clothing rack because it's easier to show you the next process that we're gonna do. So let's focus on the side again. Okay, you'll notice that we have one extra square knot here. So what we're gonna do is to add two more, so one on each side. So one here, one square knot here, and then on its right side, I'm also gonna add one square knot. And then beside the left square knot that we just added, get these 4 cords and simply tie this. We're gonna get back to this later. I actually showed this process on my other bag video. So if you remember that, you know what we're gonna do here. So I'll also do the same on the other side. So we have this square knot on the right side. So the 4 cords beside it, I'm also gonna tie this lightly, and then we'll proceed on the next row. This time we're gonna do 2 square knots. So this is the same process that we're gonna do on the other side. So here's the 2 square knots that we added. The sides of your bag should look like this. So make sure it's the same on the other side. So we have 2 here, and then remember the 2 cords that we added on top. So we have like 2 rows on the bottom part. Going back to the front, so I'm also gonna add 2 square knots here and then 1 in between. So basically we also have 2 rows. You should see this inverted triangle shape. Flip it over and do the same thing on the back part. Now back on the table, let me just untie this. And we'll also use the same process as what we did on the sides. So we should be able to make 5 square knots. Moving forward on the next 4 cords. So basically we have 4 sides since we tied 4 cords. So many fours. But basically, we just have to repeat that process. Make sure you are pulling your cords tight because again, we don't want spaces or gap. Then let's move forward on our third group. Once done, we just have to find the middle cords of these four sides. Now that we gather all these 8 cords, let me just put these 4 cords, 2 cords on this side on top of each other, and then these cords on the sides, I'm gonna use this to make 2 full square knots. Then pull these 2 middle cords to tighten. Just to make sure it's super secure, I'm gonna add another knot. You could also add fabric glue if you want. Then let's just cut the excess. I'm just gonna leave ample length. Then I'm just gonna untangle and trim again. You could always cover it if you want, just have to add sewing on this process, but for me, I'm just gonna leave it as is since it's in the inside anyway. Next is to cut the fringes according to your length preference, but for me, I'm gonna do 5 inches. This part is optional. I'm gonna add magnetic snaps on the inside part.
video helpful, please share it with me by using the hashtag HabitMade and tagging me on my social media accounts. I would love to see all your work and even feature it on my page. If you would like to see another macrame item, just let me know in the comment section below. Anyway, please share this video with your friends and don't forget to subscribe. See you on my next video.